All right, let's dive into this new Broken Arrow stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like we've got some really interesting intel here about a new update for the game.
Yep. Yep.
Specifically focusing on something called Special Operations Forces, SOF.
Right.
So like a brand new specialization coming to the U.S. side.
Yeah, definitely seems that way.
So the big question for me is how will this SOF specialization change how we approach combat in Broken Arrow?
Oh, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah, compared to the other factions and all the strategies we already know.
Absolutely. I think that's the core of what we need to really unpack here. The
Yeah.
sources you've dug up, they really highlight that this isn't just like another unit pack.
Right.
This SOS specialization looks to be a pretty fundamental shift in how U.S. forces can be deployed and how you can actually use them. The emphasis is on speed stealth and like a really concentrated level of support for each individual operator.
Right.
So in this deep dive, we're going to explore what that actually means, boots on the ground, what that means for you.
Right.
We'll break down the units themselves,
Yeah.
look at potential strategies that this unlocks,
Okay.
and really see how it compares to the other specializations and the playstyles that we're used to.
Cool. So let's get into it.
Let's do it.
What makes these Special Operations Forces so special?
Right.
Distinct is a good word for it.
Yeah.
Your sources really emphasize that SOF and Broken Arrow are designed for these quick, covert raids behind enemy lines.
Mm-hmm.
And the focus is really on quality over quantity.
Yeah.
So you have a smaller number of highly trained soldiers,
Right.
but each one of those soldiers has a lot of support concentrated around them.
Right.
It's not about those big, direct, large-scale engagements.
It's a different philosophy altogether.
Yeah, totally different philosophy.
Yeah.
And this suggests a very different play style compared to, the Marines and some of the other more conventional forces we've seen.
It's a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And what's so fascinating to me is how this really changes the game. These aren't your hold the line kind of units. This is like a scalpel,
Right.
a precision instrument.
Mm-hmm.
And the sources give us a pretty clear picture of what types of units embody this.
Okay.
So first, let's talk about the infantry.
Okay.
The 75th Ranger Regiment specifically.
Right.
And the sources mention modern Stinwaffen, which basically means cutting-edge weaponry.
Okay.
What does that tell you?
I mean, when we talk about cutting-edge weaponry for infantry,
Yeah.
it makes me think that we're moving away from those, attrition-based infantry engagements that we see a lot.
Right.
So instead of just throwing bodies at the enemy,
Yeah.
you're able to do more with smaller teams.
Right.
Maybe they'll have better optics
Mm-hmm.
for longer-range engagements.
Could be.
Take out key targets before the enemy even knows they're there.
Yeah.
Maybe specialized ammunition,
Mm-hmm.
armor-piercing rounds to take out light vehicles.
That'd be interesting.
Make more versatile than your standard infantry.
Yeah. It's all about doing more with less, it seems.
Yeah.
Now, the sources also detail these reconnaissance teams.
Okay.
And they're described as having both stealth capabilities and advanced optics.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. They're also equipped for combat.
Oh, wow.
The source specifically says, "Auch für Kämpfe geeignet."
Okay.
So they're not just passive observers.
Interesting.
They can actually get their hands dirty.
Right.
So how do you think that changes the way you might approach reconnaissance in the early game?
Well, I mean, it means that your recon units can be much more proactive.
Right.
So instead of just hanging back, getting intel,
Yeah.
they can actually infiltrate enemy positions.
Right.
ID key targets.
Mm-hmm.
And if they need to, they can take them out.
Yeah.
Or create a diversion
Right.
before the main SOF element moves in.
Yeah. Think about the possibilities.
Right.
Stealth and combat readiness in one package. That
Yeah.
makes them so flexible.
Yeah, you could set ambushes in places the enemy wouldn't expect. Secure vital intel that would normally be really heavily guarded.
Mm-hmm.
Knock out those command and control nodes early in the battle.
That could be huge.
Yeah.
They could really shape the battlefield before the main engagement even starts.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, now let's look at how SOS gets around and how they bring heavier firepower to the table.
Right.
The sources detail vehicles equipped with heavy weapons.
Okay.
You've got your M2 Browning, your MK-19 grenade launcher,
Mm-hmm.
and even Javelin anti-tank missiles.
Wow.
But there's one detail that's really interesting.
What?
A special forces operator can actually dismount from the vehicle and use an M107.50 cal sniper rifle while the vehicle is stationary.
Okay.
So what kind of tactical options do you think that unlocks?
Well, that M107 detail, it really stands out to me
Yeah.
because it just screams surgical precision.
Mm-hmm.
But it also has that mobile firepower element.
Right.
So imagine, a SOF team uses a vehicle to keep behind enemy lines quickly.
Mm-hmm.
They find a high-value target that's dug in and hardened,
Right.
like an anti-aircraft emplacement or maybe a command vehicle.
Yeah.
The operator can get out, set up the .50 cal, take that long-range shot,
Mm-hmm.
and while he's doing that, the vehicle itself can provide cover with its heavy machine gun or grenade launcher.
It's like a self-contained fire support and precision strike element.
Yeah, all in one.
Yeah.
This would be really useful for setting up temporary denial zones
Right.
or taking out key threats along an infiltration or exfiltration route.
Exactly. It adds a whole new layer of tactical adaptability.
Right.
Now let's shift our focus to the air,
Yep.
specifically the drones.
Right.
The sources highlight 2 drones in particular.
Yeah.
First, the RQ-170 Sentinel.
Iron.
This one's described as fast, stealthy, high-altitude recon platform,
Mm-hmm.
perfect for in merklich beobachten and Paranoia auszulösen,
Okay.
which basically means to observe without being seen and to trigger paranoia in the enemy.
So they know they're being watched, they just don't know where from.
Exactly.
That's creepy.
It is, isn't it?
It's like psychological warfare.
Yeah.
How do you think that psychological aspect will actually play out in the game, though?
Right.
Could it affect enemy behavior in a way that you can actually see and use?
Well, if I'm an enemy commander and I know there's a drone out there watching my every move,
Yeah.
I'm going to be a lot more hesitant.
Right.
Maybe I'll slow down my movements.
Mhm.
I won't move large formations out in the open. You're going to be wasting resources trying to find this ghost in the sky.
Yeah, you're going to be paranoid.
Exactly.
You're going to overreact to every little thing.
'Cause that's exactly what you want.
Right. You want them making mistakes.
So the RQ-170, it's a powerful tool for intel gathering.
Yeah.
You can pinpoint weaknesses in their defenses,
Right.
track troop movements,
Mhm.
all without risking a pilot.
Yeah. It gives you a huge advantage in battlefield awareness.
Absolutely. It's a game changer.
Okay, so what about the second drone?
The second drone is the MQ-9 Reaper.
Okay.
Now, this one's not just about reconnaissance.
Okay.
This thing is heavily armed.
Right.
It can carry a pretty significant payload,
Mm-hmm.
including smart bombs,
Wow.
Hellfire missiles,
Okay.
and even air-to-air missiles.
Air to air.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty surprising for a specialization that's focused on ground operations.
It is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it suggests that maybe SOF will be operating in areas where they don't have complete air superiority.
Right.
Or maybe they just need a way to protect themselves from enemy aircraft.
Yeah, it gives them a lot of flexibility and self-sufficiency.
Yeah, that air-to-air capability is really interesting.
It is.
Okay, so let's talk about the air support.
All right.
This is where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
Because the sources list a whole bunch of different aircraft.
A lot of firepower.
Yeah.
Starting with the AC-130U Spooky and the AC-130J Ghost Rider gunships.
Mm-hmm.
These things are just bristling with cannons and missiles.
Yeah. So even though SOF is all about stealth and infiltration,
Yeah.
they can still bring the big guns when they need to,
They can definitely bring the pain.
right? They're not just for close air support either.
Oh.
They can lay down sustained, devastating fire over a wide area.
It's like having an aerial artillery battery.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect for suppressing enemy defenses during an infiltration
Mhm.
or supporting a team that's been compromised.
Great. So even though they start with covert actions,
Yeah.
things can escalate pretty quickly.
Yeah. SOF operations can turn into some pretty intense firefights.
And the gunships are right there to provide that heavy firepower.
Absolutely.
Okay, so then we have the MC-130H,
Ah, yes. The workhorse.
which is specifically for deploying troops and equipment.
Right up to 64 paratroopers.
64 paratroopers.
Or 20 tons of equipment.
That's a lot.
It is.
So this really highlights those rapid insertion and logistical capabilities that we talked about before.
Yeah, it really shows that SOF isn't limited to small-scale operations.
Right.
You can put boots on the ground anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
establish forward operating bases,
Right.
conduct larger raids,
Yeah.
reinforce teams that need help.
Yeah, that's a level of operational flexibility that you don't see in a lot of other games.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Now the list goes on.
Okay.
We've got stealth aircraft like the F-117 Nighthawk,
Mm-hmm.
carrying smart bombs or cruise missiles,
Right.
and the F-35A Lightning II,
Okay.
which has a very versatile loadout.
Yeah.
Air-to-air missiles, smart bombs, even anti-ship missiles.
So how do these stealth aircraft fit into that whole SOF philosophy?
Well, they're all about operating undetected, right?
Yeah.
So these stealth platforms let you hit high-value targets deep behind enemy lines
Mm-hmm.
without the same level of risk as conventional aircraft. And the F-35A's multi-role capabilities,
Right.
especially those anti-ship missiles.
Yeah.
They really expand where SOF can operate.
Yeah, they could be involved in coastal operations or even naval engagements.
Exactly.
All right, so what else is on this list?
Well, it culminates with the F-22 Raptor,
Oh, wow.
which is mainly an air superiority fighter,
Mm,
but it can also carry ground attack ordnance. And then you've got the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber
B-2.
with its massive payload of conventional bombs or cruise missiles.
That's a lot of firepower.
It is a lot of firepower.
So what does this tell us about how SOF can actually impact the battlefield in Broken Arrow?
I mean, it suggests that they can have a strategic level impact.
Right.
This isn't just about tactical operations.
Right.
They can call in anything from surgical strikes to massive bombing runs.
They can shape the entire battlefield.
Exactly. They can act as forward observers for strategic bombing,
Wow.
designate targets for cruise missiles,
Mm-hmm.
even achieve localized air superiority.
Right, so a small SOF team could potentially have a huge impact on the course of the battle.
It really embodies that high support per soldier concept.
Oh.
Each team has access to an incredible amount of firepower when and where they need it.
Okay, so considering all this firepower and the emphasis on stealth and speed,
Yeah.
what kind of tactics and strategies do you think will be most effective for using SOF?
The sources seem to point to infiltration, disrupting enemy logistics,
Mhm.
and laser designation as key elements.
I mean, it sounds like a hit-and-run style of gameplay.
Yeah.
You use your SOF teams to bypass the front lines,
Mm-hmm.
hit those vulnerable logistics nodes, disrupt supply chains.
So chaos in their rear areas.
Right, it's not about going toe-to-toe with the enemy
It's about using speed, stealth, and targeted firepower.
to have a bigger impact than your numbers would suggest.
Exactly.
Okay, so the sources are also very clear about differentiating SOF from the other U.S. specializations,
Right.
like the Marines and the armored units. And they specifically mention asymmetrische Kriegsführung and Operationen in dichtem Gelände,
Mm-hmm.
asymmetric warfare, and operations in dense terrain.
Mm.
So SOF is really filling a unique role here.
Yeah, they're not meant to be a direct replacement for the Marines or the tanks. Marines are your heavy hitters, your assault troops.
Right.
Armor provides overwhelming firepower and protection.
Mm-hmm.
But SOF offers precision and the ability to operate in places where those other forces can't.
So you're not just picking one over the other.
No, it's about using them together.
Right, combining their strength.
Exactly.
And the sources specifically mention combining SOF with air assault.
Ah, yeah, that's an interesting combination.
Yeah, air assault for that rapid deployment and extraction.
Especially in difficult terrain.
Right.
That could be really powerful.
Yeah, imagine using air assault to get your SOF teams behind enemy lines quickly,
Mm-hmm.
conduct sabotage recon, and then get them out just as fast before the enemy can react.
It maximizes their mobility and their stealth.
It's a great way to exploit their unique capability.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's put this all into context.
Right.
SOF is the last U.S. specialization to be revealed
Right.
before Broken Arrow releases in June 2025.
Yeah.
We had the open beta back in November,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been releasing weekly updates.
Yeah, they've been busy.
So the fact that they waited this long to show us SOF makes me think that they're saving the best for last.
It's got to be something special.
Yeah, maybe they'll have unique infiltration mechanics,
Could be.
ways to get behind enemy lines that the other units can't use.
Yeah, maybe advanced stealth technology or special command and control options for coordinating these high-value teams.
Right, because these are dispersed teams operating independently.
Exactly.
So they need a way to stay in contact and coordinate their actions.
It could even involve unique interactions with the environment or with civilians.
Yeah, although we don't have any sources to confirm that.
Right.
But it's an interesting thought.
It is.
I mean, they clearly see SOF as a major part of the game.
Yeah, a key strategic differentiator.
Something that will really change how players approach the game.
And speaking of seeing,
Yeah.
your sources also mention links to images and a trailer specifically for SOF.
Oh, yeah, they did.
So while we can't see those here,
Right.
how important do you think those visual clues will be?
Oh, they're definitely going to be important. Because seeing the unit models,
Mm-hmm.
their animations,
Yep.
how they move, how they attack,
Yeah.
the visual effects of their weapons.
It all helps you understand how they'll actually perform on the battlefield.
Right. And the trailer probably shows some of their key features, some potential tactics in action,
Yeah,
which gives you a much better idea of how to use them effectively.
absolutely.
I actually did get a chance to see those visuals.
Oh, yeah.
And the emphasis is definitely on modern, high-tech gear.
Mm-hmm.
And The units move really fluidly.
Almost surgically.
Yeah, like a scalpel.
Exactly.
So it really reinforces everything we've been talking about.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Special Operations Forces and Broken Arrow, what are your biggest takeaways?
For me, the most impactful thing is that combination of stealth
Right.
and the potential for overwhelming firepower on demand.
Mm-hmm.
You can move unseen, disrupt enemy operations,
Yeah.
and then just call down devastating airstrikes whenever you need them.
It's a very different play style.
Yeah, it's going to be really rewarding.
Yeah. And the fact that the developers waited so long to reveal this specialization tells me that it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah.
It's going to interact with the other U.S. specializations in really interesting ways.
So Marines, Armor, Air Assault, Stryker Cavalry Regiment.
Right.
And of course, it's going to present a unique challenge to the Russian forces.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how they're going to integrate into combined arms operations. Like, how can SOF best support a Marine assault?
Right.
Or how can their intelligence gathering help an armored breakthrough?
Yeah, and from a defensive perspective,
Right.
how do you counter these fast-moving, stealthy SOF teams?
They can strike anywhere behind your lines.
Yeah, the potential for dynamic and asymmetric engagements is huge.
It is.
So this deep dive into SOF, it paints a picture of rapid clandestine operations backed up by immense firepower.
Right. It's a whole new way of thinking about warfare in Broken Arrow.
It is.
So what kind of strategies are you already thinking about?
Oh man, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
I'm already thinking about using SOF teams to infiltrate enemy air defense sites, take them out quietly, open up corridors for airstrikes.
Yeah, that's a classic Special Forces tactic.
It is.
You could also use them to secure key bridges or choke points before your main force arrives.
Shape the battlefield before the main engagement even begins.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's all about disruption.
Yeah, using these small, highly trained teams to create decisive advantages.
And you can do that in so many different ways.
The possibilities are truly endless.
They really are.
I can't wait to see how it all plays out when the game releases.
Neither. This is going to be good.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting.
I'm excited.
Me too.